Okay, when we actually put this podcast up, the theme will work. But for those of you listening, just know that when we recorded this, we don't seem to be able to get the theme working properly, which normally I would say may not bode well for the show. But we have an amazing and now regular guest on the podcast, so I know that it will go well. But anyway, Mark, hello.
Well, I need the theme to get my juices flowing, though, man.
Well, let me see. Let me see if I can do this again. Hang on.
There we go.
Soothing.
Beautiful. Joe, I have a question for you. What a shocker. I've been thinking about this one. Did your family have access to a film projector when you were a kid?
No, they did not. So we have, I did come of age when video cameras, became de rigueur. Right. So there is some footage of us, when I'm a little bit older. But no, we didn't have a film camera.
I meant actually a projector, though.
Oh, a projector.
Did you ever watch it? Like, I'm sure you watched films in school, like.
Yes.
Maybe,
yeah.
It's before VCRs when we're all roughly the same age. But did your family ever use a projector at home?
No.
Okay.
But I used to love those classes, eh? Boy, when they rolled out the projector.
Oh, man, it's so exciting. It was kids today would have no understanding of how exciting that was. So I just wondered, because I remember as I was watching what we're going to talk about today, I was remembering for one of my birthday parties, my father went to the library, the London Public Library, and borrowed a film projector, and we watched Laurel and Hardy shorts.
No way.
Yeah, it was the coolest thing. And I don't think I've ever given my dad credit for that, because it's such a cool thing to see that at such a young age. So I just wondered,
wow, what a great thing I wonder what inspired him to do that. And
it might have been my mother's suggestion, actually.
It usually is, isn't it?
Yeah. And Ira, how about you? Yeah.
I can tie this into our theme tonight, because one of the first Buster Keaton films I actually saw in high school. And it was projected for us using one of those projectors that Mark was talking about.
Oh, wow.
That is so cool. Yeah.
See, my teachers never played anything as interesting as Buster Keaton. It was all I don't know, some kind of dating thing. I don't know.
It was a short called The Railrodder. And the reason that we were watching it is because it was actually made in 1965 by the National Film Board of Canada. Okay. So what it was about basically was Buster Keaton is standing in front of Big Ben in London, and he reads this newspaper with this huge ad that says, "Come see Canada." And he decides to come see Canada. So he literally jumps off the bridge into the Thames and washes up on the Canadian East Coast, where he finds a little tiny engine on the rails. He gets into it, and the film is essentially a travel log of Canada. So you've got Buster Keaton on this rail thing doing his comic stuff in the foreground, while all these scenic vistas of different Canadian provinces are playing behind him.
And I remember seeing that, actually. I saw that at one time. Yeah. Well, now, the rail thing you're talking about, was it the one where he pumps it with his hands?
Well, it had an automatic motor, but I think it also had the pump. The trick was that it had a chest in the front, and he kept pulling stuff out of it, impossibly more stuff than it could possibly hold. And also, years after I saw that, because I saw that when I was a kid, but years after I saw that, the National Film Board of Canada at the same time made a film called Buster Keaton Rides Again, which was a documentary about the making of the railroad.
Oh, wow.
And you get to see his creative process. And this was only a couple of years before he died.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are talking to Ira Nayman, master satirist, author of multiple novels, and collections of Les Pages au Fol. Am I pronouncing the name of your website correctly?
Close enough. Yep.
All right. And the former editor of Amazing Stories magazine. Welcome to the podcast, Ira.
Happy to be here.
Well, we're happy to have you back. It's good.
How many times have you been on this podcast now? I feel like it's
third time, I think.
This will be the third, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you are the first, apart from Mark and I, to achieve the troisième status. So, congratulations.
Thank
and
you.
Obviously, today we're talking about Buster Keaton because you're somewhat of an expert on this sort of thing, and always extremely informative.
Oh, thank you.
And specifically, you wanted us to watch Sherlock Jr.
Yes.
Yeah. Was there a reason why that was the one you wanted to talk about, or?
Well, when we first started talking about Keaton, Joe actually suggested The General as the film we would talk to. The General, is probably his best known film, and so I can understand the attraction. But the thing about Sherlock Jr. is that it is an amazing exploration of the nature of film itself. And for a film that only came out, 30 years into the film industry, it's really astonishingly smart.
There's some shots that I was like, how did they do that in 1920? It was 24, right?
Yeah.
25.
Yeah, I think so.
Somewhere in there. And I'm like, how did they do that? They didn't have steady cams back then. I know that for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's an amazing shot, I think in the short, The Goat. It starts off as a shot of railroad tracks going way off into the distance and then curving off the side of the screen. And as you're watching this shot, a train appears in the far distance, and it slowly makes its way across to the center of the screen, where it turns and starts coming towards the camera. And it keeps coming towards the camera, and you can see that it's a train. Keeps coming towards the camera. You can now see Buster Keaton is sitting on the front of the engine. And it keeps coming, and it keeps coming, and it keeps coming, and it stops on a really close-up shot of his face. It stops on a dime. And it's like, how the hell could you possibly do something like that? Actually, that was really simple. He just shot it backwards.
Yeah,
He just shot the train rolling out and then, showed it backwards. The effects in Sherlock Jr. are a little more sophisticated than that.
Well, yeah, I'm thinking in particular of the shot where the figure of the woman is up against the fence, and the people who are chasing Buster Keaton, they chase him, and he jumps into the fence, doesn't he?
He jumps through her. He jumps
through her
it's
into
like
the fence.
A vaudevillian magic trick or something.
And then she starts walking away from the fence.
Yeah.
So it's as if he's literally jumped into this person through the fence. And you're like even like now, like the effect that you just talked about, we could guess because we're somewhat, I think sophisticated after 120 years of film. We can go, oh, I bet he just shot that in reverse. This one, you're like, nope, I have no idea how he did that.
Should we perhaps set the scene of what the film is actually about before we get into that?
I think that's a capital notion.
Yeah, that's right.
So it starts with Keaton. We discover Keaton is a projectionist in a film theater, and he really wants to be a secret detective, and he's got this book, How to Be a Detective, and he's got his spyglass out, and he's looking at things. And really the sort of the plot of it, such as it is, begins with him visiting his girlfriend, I guess we could say, at her father's house. He has a rival for her, and the rival steals the father's pocket watch and pins the crime on him. Mm-hmm. And so he's no longer welcome in the house. Dejected, he goes back to the movie theater, where a film is playing that is also about a theft, in this case of jewelry. And after he sort of starts the projector going and gets the film going on the screen, he falls asleep. And as he's sleeping, a ghost version of himself rises out of his body and notices that the actors on the screen, on the movie screen, have been replaced by the people in his life. So the female lead in the movie is now his girlfriend, and the rival is now, the bad guy. And he starts by trying to wake himself up. The ghost tries to wake him up, but he's fast asleep. So the ghost runs through the theater and into the movie screen. At first, he's thrown out of the movie screen, but then he kind of sidles up to the side of the screen and tries to surprise the bad guy by jumping into the screen a second time, only this time the scene cuts to a different place and he finds himself in a different place. And that's kind of where it starts. The bulk of Sherlock Jr. is actually this movie within the movie, right?
Yeah.
The whole, stealing the father's pocket watch thing, not only is it a relatively minor plot point, but one of the things I point out is that storyline is actually resolved by the girlfriend. Keaton himself is not involved with that at all.
Yeah.
Right?
He doesn't figure that one out.
No, right?
She does.
What happens is, in his initial sort of entrance into the film world, he's still working with the logic of the real world, so to speak. And so he's out of place. He's very clearly out of place. At the end of... So, actually, this is one of the sort of effects that really is breathtaking. In the beginning, after he's jumped into the movie and the scene has cut to a separate scene, there's a sequence of a half a dozen different cuts, and he's always prepared for the previous one. The one that stands out for me is the one where he's standing on a rock surrounded by water. He figures the only thing he can do is jump into the water and swim away. So he jumps into the water, but then there's a cut and he actually ends up in a snowbank. Right?
I really like the one where he cuts to the African veldt and he's got two lions around him.
Yep.
It's mostly the way he plays it. He just plays it so perfectly. Like, oh, I'm now here. Oh, those are lions. Oh, they see me. Oh, I'd better get out of here. And then, of course, it cuts again. It's the tension was nice in that little tiny scene.
Yeah, and one of the lions actually gets up and
appears
to pose a danger.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the amazing things about Keaton is that at the same time as he may be the fastest person in silent film comedy, like he's constantly moving and running, but then you get these moments of just peace, right? And you can actually see a thought process going on in his head, exactly as Mark described. There's really an amazing sequence in the feature Our Hospitality, where he's running away from people he knows wants to kill him, and he climbs down a rock face and stays in an indentation in the rock face. One of the people who is chasing him notices he's there and says, "Hey, I'm going to throw down a rope so you can get up out of here." And he doesn't see the man, so he doesn't know that it's his enemy. He says, "Okay, fine." Man throws the rope down. Keaton ties the rope around his waist so that he can help himself get pulled up. And just as he starts to make his way up, he sees that it's his enemy. He jumps back into the alcove and he pulls on the rope. And all of a sudden, the rope that was taut is now not so tight. Why is that? And you can see him looking at the rope and he's thinking. And then something falls down past the face of the cave that he's in. And he's like, "Oh, that's interesting." And all of a sudden, the rope is taut again. But now instead of being taut up, it's taut down. And just as he puts it all together, just as he realizes what must have happened, he gets pulled off the rock face. Right? But yeah, again, the idea that you can see the wheels turning, you can see him thinking. It's also true that in Keaton's world, the universe is sometimes friendly and sometimes not. right? Sometimes it helps him get out of jams. Sometimes it puts him deeper into jams. And Keaton is stone-faced throughout it. His nickname was the Great Stoneface because unlike most other actors of the time, he would underplay emotions rather than overplay them.
Yeah, many years earlier, it seems, than became the norm.
Oh yeah. Why did he do that? Because didn't he start out in vaudeville, like with his family?
He did.
That's very overplayed vaudeville.
Or was it just that he had developed a greater understanding of the film medium and the requirements of it?
Maybe. Yeah.
Well, the thing about his performances in vaudeville is that he was actually a child performer.
Oh, okay.
His role in the family stage presence was that he would basically be dressed up like an adult, even though he was like 8 and he was only like 3 or 4 feet tall, and with this giant top hat. And his dad was like 6 feet tall with really long legs, and he would do this kind of roundhouse kick where he would knock the top hat off Keaton's head, right? The story goes that one night his father, who was an alcoholic, which unfortunately he became as well, missed and clocked Keaton on the side of the head, just knocked him unconscious for several minutes.
Yikes.
Wow.
So that was the kind of environment he grew up in. But he wasn't an integral part of the act, if you know what I mean.
Right, he was the subject,
subject, yeah. And to be fair, his father appears in many of his films, many of his feature films. So whatever issues were there were resolved, however they get resolved.
So something that struck me about this film was its relative sophistication. Really, it was somewhat narratively complex, not in terms of the plot of the crime, but the story within the story, and almost a little bit Christopher Nolan Inception like. It almost seemed to threaten to get away from him at a certain point, and yet he was able to hold the audience's hand along so that the audience knew what was going on all the time. They knew, reality from film, we understood watching it, all the different layers. And I wonder how it was received at that time. Was this considered a groundbreaking film? Did audiences get it? Were they sophisticated enough to get it at the time?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Really?
That doesn't surprise me.
One of the reasons why, The General was a much more popular film was because it was a much more simple film, right? It was just basically a train chase one way and then back. This, as you say, has multiple layers. One thing that I started saying about 10 minutes ago and should probably finish is just that once that sequence of jump cuts that starts Keaton's journey into the film world happens, there's a blackout. It fades to black. And the next time we see Keaton, he has now taken on the persona of Sherlock Jr., the best detective in the world, right? And that's Keaton essentially coming to terms with the film universe. So from that point on, the film within the film is based in film logic, not real world logic, right? So it's not just that he jumps through the woman's stomach. The next time we see him, he's dressed as a woman himself, right? Because then he gets chased by the cops and he eventually has to, throw the woman's clothing that he's wearing at the cop.
That was a nice stunt, actually. Yeah, so his manservant has brought along this special contraption that they put in the window, and there's a woman's dress and wig on it. And so he jumps when things go badly with the criminals. He jumps through the window and comes out of the window in full woman's garb. It's hilarious. It's actually quite funny. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. And how much thought had to have gone into these gags? I mean, I know that kind of gag was de rigueur in that era. Like a lot of the lots where, they employed writers specifically to come up with these gags. Frank Capra earlier in his career was employed to help come up with gags. So it was less a question of, complex storylines or narratives and more just a string of gags in a lot of these films, which I think is reflected in this film. And yet there is the more complex storyline layered on top of it.
So I'm trying to put this into perspective. There's a very famous story about the first film of the train arriving at a film house, and everyone freaks out because they think it's an actual train. How long before this movie was that? Like 20 years or so?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that happened actually towards the end of the 19th century.
Okay, so it's maybe more like 30 years then.
Something like that, yeah.
That's quite a... Yeah, I know that should be enough time for people to catch up. I mean...
Well, that's 1995 to 2025 in terms of our...
So like are we freaked out by things that are happening in the media right now? Maybe not, but it's probably not a fair comparison because we've experienced so many changes in media. Maybe, and my people weren't going to the cinema not every day anyway, maybe every week.
Well, see, 100 years from now, people are going to be looking back at us and going, gee, what a naive response to AI,
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially from the bunkers where they're protecting themselves from it. Yeah, for sure.
I'm sure that the jumping through the stomach has got to be some kind of just magic trick, right?
Actually, no, it was physical. Was
it? Most magic tricks are. The sawing a woman in half, that's a physical illusion.
The thing about Keaton is that he did have this one theory or this one idea that he always worked on where what the audience sees on the screen has to be what was filmed in front of the camera.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Okay. So, for instance, in the original scene where he jumps into the film, you might notice that there are no shadows around his character, right? Those shadows were like part of the green screen effect for decades and decades and decades. It took a long time to get rid of those, but there are none in what he did because he refused to do effects in post-production. Everything, everything that you see was in the screen. So what happens? What happens in that instance is there is a trap door in the wall behind the woman. Okay, the trap door goes up, and the actor who is playing the valet, his legs are strapped to the door. Okay.
Yep.
So the legs that you see, the woman's legs, are dummy's legs. They're not actual legs. Okay.
Gotcha.
Which leaves a hole in the stomach area that Keaton jumps through. After Keaton jumps through it, the door slams down, his legs are freed, and he walks away.
Yeah, so
creating that amazing illusion.
So a magic trick. Yeah. That's a great illusion. It's really great. Very practical. Yep. Wow.
It works. Yeah.
How did he do the ghost stuff? Because that I was also surprised by that because that was very sophisticated.
The ghost stuff is pretty straightforward. Double exposure of the film.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh my God.
Jumping into the screen itself, that is a fairly sophisticated thing that actually has two parts to it. The first part is probably pretty easy to guess. When he runs through the movie theater and jumps into the screen for the first time, he's actually jumping onto a stage recreation of the set in the movie within the movie.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And so when the actor throws him out, it's literally the actor on the screen, on the stage throwing him out of the movie.
Now, one of the questions I had when I was watching it was any of the film that was being projected actually film, or was it all actually a stage pretending to be a film? But I gather from what you're saying is that much of it was actually a film, and then they recreated just parts of it to create that illusion.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really basically just the setup and the ending. where you get to see the film and
That's
the reality at the same time. Yeah.
He's
very impressive. He's an impressive athlete, I gotta say. Like those stunts, they look so bloody dangerous too.
Well, how old would he have been then? So he would have been in his physical prime, I would imagine.
30s, I would imagine. Yeah.
Oh, so not quite his prime. See, because I now consider 60 prime.
There is
Joe. We can talk later about that. I got bad news for you, buddy.
Yeah.
There's a shot in one of his features called Steamboat Jr., where he's the climax of the film. He's running through a street. He's running through a town that's being hit by a tornado, and he runs down a street in front of the brick facade of a building. And it's no joke. This is a 10-ton facade of a building. It's huge and it's very substantial. And he does that thing where he just, in the middle of running like a madman, he stops to think about what is happening around him just as the wall of the building collapses. And,
oh my God,
you got to think that he's going to get crushed, except there's this one tiny window in the facade of the building, and it just happens to fall right where he's standing. Okay. Now, to give you an idea of just how dangerous it was, he had about a 3-inch leeway on his mark. If he hadn't hit his mark exactly where he needed to be, he would have been crushed.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh my God! Did they have like a team of mathematicians and engineers working on this? Because, like, just figuring out the fall and the angle, and oh my God,
it's weird. Because I mean, Keaton throughout his life, he was like, I'm not that brilliant. I'm not, any sort of genius. I just did what I thought would be funny. But as far as anybody can tell, he worked out all of the routines. Everything he did, he worked out himself.
So did he have a death wish, or was he just supremely confident? Or, how much of this was left to chance? I mean, like when, so Tom Cruise these days doing his stunts.
Yeah, I was thinking of Tom Cruise.
Yeah, like I have the impression that everything is worked out within an absolute, like there is no margin for error. Like,
right.
Except when there is.
Well, yeah. I mean, they work everything out as much as possible. Was it done with the same rigor with Buster Keaton, or was he just lucky?
I don't know that he was necessarily lucky. There's a shot in Sherlock Jr. where Keaton, trying to be a hapless detective, is following his rival because he's sure that the rival is responsible for stealing the pocket watch, and he gets stuck in a railway car, so he climbs up to the top of the car, and then the railway car starts moving.
That was good. That's a good stunt.
And he's running, to try and stay on it, and eventually he gets hit with a water spout because trains needed water at the time, and the water starts pouring out of the spout and thrusts him down onto the rails. He jumps up and he runs away. End of scene. For several days afterwards, he suffered from blinding headaches, but eventually they went away, so he was like, okay, I'm fine. Years later, he was having a medical exam, and the doctor asked him, when did you break your neck?
What?
Oh my God.
So apparently the pressure of the water throwing him down onto the rail, he did himself serious damage, right? But
so a little lucky there, because I mean,
very much.
If that breaks another way, then you're dead or paralyzed. Yeah.
But again, this goes back to Keaton's idea of the purity of film, right? He wanted everything that appears on the screen to be what happened in front of the camera, and part of that is he has to do his own stunts. There is only one point at which he doesn't do his own stunts, and that's a film he made in the 1960s called A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum, right?
Oh, yeah.
he plays a guy who's just running around the 7 hills of Rome, right? And he must be in his 70s at that point. And at that point, he's willing to allow a stunt double to do some stuff for him. But otherwise, it was all him, all Keaton.
So there's a little bit, an element of Jackie Chan in this.
I thought of Jackie Chan a lot. Like some of the stunts just seem like Jackie Chan stunts. The other way around. Jackie Chan is copying.
The influence runs the other way.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. But one of the things I read about Jackie Chan, somebody invited him to go skiing at one point, and he told them, he said, well, I don't do that. And they're like, what? You're Jackie Chan. How do you not ski? And he's like, whenever I do something dangerous, I only do it if I'm paid. So smart. And I wondered if Buster Keaton was the same. Did he have this same daredevil attitude throughout his whole life, or was it just strictly with his films?
Oh, I'm pretty sure it was strictly with his films. Yeah.
Though I had a dark thought about the you were saying, just as you're describing the house falling on top of him scene, how he was playing everything. He was for a laugh, like he's doing it for a laugh, and maybe that was somewhere in the back of his head. Well, if I did die, that would be pretty funny. It's dark, but it's funny.
It certainly would have contributed to his legend.
On a happier note, so just to finish the idea of the opening scene of the film within the film. So what they did was this. Keaton shot the scene where he runs into the screen. Then they went to the first location. And what Keaton did was he set up the camera, and then he took the last frame from the previous scene that they'd shot, put it in front of the camera, and had somebody actually direct him on exactly how he needed to stand, so he was in the exact position that he had been in at the end of that scene.
Right. Start
shooting, cut, end that scene, and then do it again for all of the other scenes until he gets just a perfect string of shots. Yeah, it's very clever.
Yeah. It's very clever. Yeah, I'm just a simple man, but the scene where he's riding on the front of the motorcycle, and his buddy is driving, and then his buddy falls off. I can't remember how his buddy falls off, but then
they drive over a bump, and the buddy flies off, right?
And so his buddy's not driving anymore, and it's this crazy long, not even a chase, really. He's just going through all this traffic. He's like, "Hey, be careful! You're going to kill him."
And he's sitting on the handlebars.
And he's just sitting on the handlebars. I'm not sure how the motorcycle's still running, and then it just finally ends with him hitting the wall and flying through the window and knocking over the guy that's kidnapped his girl. And I don't know why, but that just made me laugh so hard.
It's the unexpected, right?
It was just so absurd.
You were not expecting the scene to end with him saving the girl, right?
Yeah, no.
You were expecting him to eventually fall over or something.
Or die, yeah.
Oh, well, no, this is the thing that I admire so much about Buster Keaton. I mean, keep in mind, silent film comedy was then at the stage of pie fights and Keystone cops getting thrown off the cop car because there are too many of them, right? He takes physical comedy to just a whole different level than anything that was being done at that point. There is a story, possibly apocryphal, that when Keaton and Chaplin were coming up, when they were trying to break into film, the biggest film comedian at the time was somebody who is completely forgotten now, a guy named Roscoe Arbuckle, who was sometimes known as Fatty, but he didn't like being referred to that way. He was the king of comedy. And if you wanted to start making your own short films, you had to apprentice with Arbuckle before you could before Senate would allow you to start making your own films. It's said that Chaplin made 40 films with Arbuckle. None of them with his iconic character of the tramp. He was experimenting with different characters to see if any of them would stick. Keaton, on the other hand, he made 7. And if you watch any of the Arbuckle shorts, you can already see Keaton's mind kind of going in other directions than anything that anybody else was doing on the screen. He had a very unique sort of take.
So then what happened to Buster Keaton? Was it the advent of sound that did him in, or did he? You alluded to a drinking problem. Did that come after he had kind of wound up in obscurity, or was it the chicken and the egg there?
That's a whole story, my friend. I will answer that. Actually, I'll answer that first, then I'll get to the point I would like to make. If you've ever seen Keaton in a sound film, you will know that Keaton had actually quite a lovely baritone voice. A lot of the silent film stars, their careers died with sound because their voice didn't match the persona that they had on screen, and there was no way around it. Errol Flynn, I think, was the classic example of somebody who had a high squeaky voice, which just was so at odds with his heroic characters that he couldn't sustain a sound career. Keaton was not like that. Several things happened to him towards the end of his time in Hollywood. He married, and I forget her name, but a female actor who was also the daughter of a studio head. And the studio head gave him his next contract, but did not allow him to write or direct. Right? And there's actually, towards the end of his time in Hollywood, he was playing second fiddle, if you can imagine this, to the studio's up-and-coming comedy star, Jimmy Durante. They made about a half a dozen films together.
Yeah.
Which was just about the death knell of his career in America. So what does he do? He goes to Europe and continues to make films when he can there. One of my first memories of Keaton, actually, was seeing him in an Italian film, which I think now was probably called War Italian Style. Okay. And I remember very vividly this one scene where Keaton and the two stars of the film are sitting in a one-room house while bombs are falling all around them, and the house is shaking and horrible things are happening. And the two Italian actors are mugging mercilessly for the camera. And Keaton is just sitting there sipping tea, right? Yeah. There's one point where half of the roof falls in and he gets a piece of plaster in his tea and he just calmly plucks it out and keeps drinking, right? So, I mean, he kept making films up until the 1960s when a guy named Raymond Rohauer, who was a film historian, decides that Keaton needs a revival. He put together a series of Keaton shorts and features that went from rep house to rep house. In my 20s, that's where I got my first major sort of taste of Keaton. I was there practically every night watching Keaton films, right? And so he popularizes Keaton, and Keaton, several things come of that. He gets into American films again, like A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum. And he gets other films that are just mind-boggling. Have you ever seen Film?
No,
I haven't. No.
It's a short film called Film. It is the only film ever written and directed by Samuel Beckett, and it stars Buster Keaton.
Oh my God. I have to see that.
Wow.
And there is, find it. I mean, it's really short and it's kind of Beckettian, for lack of a better term. Keaton has said that he didn't have a clue what the film was about. He just did what Beckett told him to do.
That sounds entirely right. Yeah, that's right.
There is a rumor. I don't know if this is true, but I mean, I heard this many, many years ago, that when Beckett wrote Waiting for Godot, his dream cast was Chaplin and Keaton for the two tramps.
That would be, yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. That would have been amazing. So
now is Film any good?
I like Beckett, so I liked it.
Okay.
If you don't like Beckett, it's probably terrible. I don't know. So yeah, Keaton has a late life renaissance, right? The last couple of years of his life, he finally sort of got the attention that he deserved. I'll also mention, just in that time period, there is a film called The Comic, starring Dick Van Dyke, about a silent film star who, is washed up when sound comes in. That was based on a number of different silent film comedians. There's bits of Harold Lloyd and Stan Laurel in it, but largely you can see a lot of Keaton in Dick Van Dyke's portrayal of the silent film star. So that also happens, in the 60s, in the Keaton Renaissance, mini Renaissance.
Now, when I asked you about what happened to Keaton, did I interrupt another thought that you were having, that you were about to, there's something you wanted to express?
Yeah, I wanted to get really pedantic about film theory for a bit, because I really wanted to dive into this whole idea that Sherlock Jr. is about the nature of film reality versus the reality we live in every day. Okay. That sequence, that opening sequence where he jumps into the film and it cuts several times and he's kind of stuck in between, that actually is an illustration of the difference between the way we experience space in the real world as opposed to the way space is dealt with in film. In the real world, if you want to go from point A to point B, you have to walk or move through all of the space in between those 2 points. In film, a cut does exactly the same thing, right? And it's said, I forget which theorist says it, but film basically annihilates space.
Yeah.
You don't have to have all that space in between points A and point B. And Keaton just, comes upon this. There is a wonderful scene at the end of the film. The girlfriend has figured out the mystery. Everything seems to go right. She comes to the movie theater where Keaton is just watching the film finally spool. He's woken up. And she tells him everything is great and he's happy, but he doesn't know what to do. So he looks to the screen and he sees that the hero on the screen has a similar confrontation with the girl in the movie, and he puts his hands on her shoulders. So Keaton puts his hands on her shoulders. And then the hero in the movie pulls the girl towards him. So Keaton pulls the girl towards him. The guy on the screen gives the girl a big kiss. Keaton gives her a peck on the cheek because Keaton's naive that way, but same sense. And then Keaton looks to see, so what's going to happen next? What happens next on the movie screen is that they cut to the hero and the heroine surrounded by half a dozen babies. And the last shot of the film is Keaton looking at this going, how the hell do I do that? Right?
That's all up to your interpretation. I thought he was saying something else entirely.
Oh, okay. What did you think he was saying?
I thought the look on his face was like, maybe I don't want any more of this.
That's totally in keeping with Keaton's on-screen relationship with women.
It sort of that look on his face is like, oh my God, I didn't think it led to this.
Yeah, exactly. And that one shot does for time what the original shot does for space, right? Yeah. In time, we live forward in time 1 second by 1 second. In film, you can go backward or forward in time with a single cut, right? And so several years pass there. Again, just a masterclass in the difference between film reality and the way we actually experience real life, right? And again, he didn't claim to be an intellectual, unlike, say, Sergei Eisenstein. He wasn't writing, books about film theory. He was just, illustrating it through his films.
He demonstrated a deep understanding of the film medium.
Yeah.
At a time.
He was creating the medium, really. I mean, we've already mentioned like half dozen people that have, taken his ideas and used them to great success. So, yeah.
I think, just some people, maybe it was more common than we think, because these are the surviving examples. But some people at that time just seemed to have a superior grasp of how to take best advantage of the medium of film, and I'm thinking of like Frank Capra, I mentioned earlier, was coming up at that time, working with the same guys, getting the same kind of experience, and then just found themselves in a place where they could employ their ideas to everyone's benefit
Capra
today.
gets a bad rap these days for his sentimentality, particularly the sentimentality of his endings, which got labeled Capricorn, right? But if you look at some of his films, if you look at some of the Common Man trilogy, Meet John Doe, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, Mr. Deeds Goes to Town, there's real despair in those films. Like, before you get to that corny ending, there's real darkness in those films. And even
It's a Wonderful
Life. It's a Wonderful Life. Yeah. I mean, that goes to such a dark place before the final happy ending, right?
Yeah. I know. That's
I
just saw that for the first time this year, actually.
Oh, wow.
Are you serious?
I have. Okay, so I've seen bits of it, usually the ending. So I'm probably one of those people that would have thought that, this is just a corny filmmaker. But I finally thought, I should watch the whole thing. So I watched and it's dark. It's a dark alternate reality film, basically.
Oh, it's
up until the ending.
My favorite Christmas movie. I love that.
I get it. I see it. Yeah, I see it.
And I have to just point out as well that it wasn't just Capra. It was his writer, that he collaborated with frequently, Robert Riskin.
Yeah.
We have to credit the writers.
Yeah.
But
no argument.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds to me very much like we have a theme for the next show, if you want me back on again.
There we go.
Absolutely. Yeah. Now, before we part ways, the specific impact of his work on your work, is there any kind of a direct relation between Buster Keaton and the work of Ira Nayman?
Oh, well, yes, I would think so. And a large part of it has to do with the surreal nature of a lot of his imagery, which, yes, very clearly informs me when I go down those kind of surreal rabbit holes. Absolutely. If you'll indulge me for 1 minute, I'll give one more example from one of his shorts, because it's so delicious.
Sure.
There's a short, I think it's The High Sign, where he plays a character who works in a shooting gallery. And he comes to work the first day and he takes off his hat and notices there's no place to hang it. So he takes a pot that they use of ink that they use to touch up the shooting, the things you shoot at, the targets. And he draws a hook onto the wall and puts his hat on it. Okay. Now that's good enough for most comedians, but Keaton always went kind of the extra distance. The next day, he comes back. He's on the job again. He takes off his hat, but this time he's distracted, so he puts his hat on the wall above the hook, and it slowly starts to drop down until just when the top brim is on the hook and it stops. And if you think about it for a moment, this is not possible. The hook can't be two-dimensional to allow the hat to fall past it, and three-dimensional to catch the hat at the same time, right? It's those moments, those bizarre, surreal moments that I love, and hopefully, I've been able to capture myself.
And everyone can go watch Sherlock Jr. It's on YouTube. It's free. Everyone should watch it.
It is the amazing thing about the age that we live in, that we do have access to this amazing material. Any final thoughts, guys?
Capra next, I guess.
Capra next.
Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, man. You want to talk politics?
That's a good movie. Yeah, that's actually.
There
you go. Yeah, there you go. That's a good one.
Very timely, and a good excuse to watch more of Capra's oeuvre. But now I want to go and watch even more of Buster Keaton, who I just admire more and more. So
there's amazing stuff in every one of his films, for sure.
All right.
Well, thank you for this, Ira. This was great.
Thanks for being on our podcast a third time.
You're welcome. Thanks for putting up with me.
Our pleasure.
You've been listening to Recreative, a podcast about creativity and the works that inspire it. Recreative is produced by Mark Rayner and Joe Mahoney for Donovan Street Press Inc. in association with Monkey Joy Press. Technical production and music by Joe Mahoney, web design by Mark Rayner. You can support this podcast by checking out our guests' work, listening to their music, purchasing their books, watching their shows, and so on. You can find out more about each guest and all of our past episodes by visiting recreative.ca. That's re-creative.ca. You can contact us by emailing Joe Mahoney at donovanstreetpress.com. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks for listening.